clap for him as he approaches the podium. He has the title of his work is Geoethics, Environmental and Social Responsibility. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My job this afternoon is to look at geoethics in the context of the environment and social responsibilities. And if you look at page 16 of your program, you will see the abstract to this write-up. And from the abstract, we are actually looking at starting with geoethics. And then according to the International Association for Promoting Geoethics, it consists of research and reflection on the values which underpin appropriate behaviors and practices wherever human activities interact with the earth. Now, this paper is very practical if you ask me, because it's looking at the environment, and the environment is something that influences almost everybody. And that is where we live. And just pay attention to it and you will see how geoethics should relate to the environment and, of course, social responsibilities that is attached to it. Now, geoethics deals with the ethical, social, cultural implications of geoscience, knowledge, education, research, practice, communication, and with the social role and responsibilities of geoscientists in conducting their activities. In this case, it is your activities, how geoscience applies to the way you conduct your activities in society. It is in view of this that this paper critically examines geoethics from environmental and social responsibilities perspectives and seeks to relate geoethics to those values upon which appropriate environmental behaviors, social roles and responsibilities should be premised in society. Using the geoethics theory, which deals with the ethical relations of humans with inorganic nature, reiterates of the rights and needs of humans in relation with inorganic nature. The paper mechanically points out the social role and responsibilities of members of the society to their surrounding environment. The paper argues that geoethics presents an opportunity for members of the society to become more conscious of their social role and responsibilities to the society and environment in conducting their activities, and a tool to influence the awareness of the society regarding problems relating to geo-resources and geo-environment. The paper concludes with recommendations and guidelines for effective behavior, especially among young people. I think a lot of you here are young people. We will delve in more to see what role you are supposed to play as a young person in relation to geoethics, environment, and social responsibilities. In addressing concrete problems of human life by trying to find solutions to environmental challenges, protection of nature and land in the Niger Delta and Nigeria in general. Now, the keywords here, we look at geoethics, environment, social responsibilities, geo-resources, and geo-environment. And continuing from there, we've taken the definition of geoethics as presented by the IAPG from the first part of the introduction that we got in the abstract. So we look at it again here from the geoethics as a theory that explains the ethical relations of humans within organic. We've also taken this, so I think you can take the next slide. So here, we are looking at geoethics further now in details as put forward by IAPG. It provides a reference and guidelines for behavior in addressing concrete problems of human life by trying to find socio-economic solutions compatible with respect for the environment and the protection of nature and land. Geoethics points out the social role and responsibilities of geoscientists, as well as the ethical, cultural, and economic implications that their work may have on society. Geoethics encourages a critical analysis of the use and management of georesources, like, for example, water and minerals, promoting their eco-friendly and social-friendly development. Geoethics deals with problems related to the risk management and the mitigation of geo-risk. Geoethics also fosters the proper and correct dissemination of the results of scientific studies and information on risk. Geoethics also aims to improve the relationships between scientific community, mass media, and the general public. Geoethics promotes the development of geoparks and of the geotourism in order to create social awareness about the value of the geological heritage and geodiversity. Geoethics also highlights the value and usefulness of geological and geophysical knowledge in daily life by promoting disciplines like geomedicine and geoforensic and geosciences. Finally, geoethics aims to organize effective teaching tools to develop awareness, values, responsibility, especially among young people, like we've said before. You know, geoethics is a new area, it's a developing field of study. And I believe the professors that spoke before me have delved into trying to let you understand. Even when you tell somebody you are saying something about geoethics, they begin to think, what is this all about? But I believe with time, they will know the role it has to play in society. In going further, we will look at responsibility and the application of responsibility to environmental and social responsibilities in relation to geoethics. Now, the Oxford Dictionary defines responsibility as the state or fact of having a duty to deal with something or of having control over someone. Responsibility is one of the traits of our character, which means that a person is able to be responsible for his or her actions. A person is able to take some duties and to face certain consequences of the actions that may result. In a definite sense, people are not born with the sense of responsibility, and it does not appear at once by a magic, clicks of the finger. As you are born, you are just like an empty stuff, tabula rasa, but with time, you begin to learn and imbibe some of these responsibilities as you interact in the society. Now, responsibility is something every person should cultivate in themselves. It should become a part of one's personality. Lack of such a trait of character and its absolute absence is responsible for the negative behavior and attitude that we see demonstrated when our environment is deliberately polluted and degraded by citizens. We'll delve more into that, how people deliberately pollute our environment and degrade our environment. Deliberately, we'll delve into that in the course of the paper. When one is responsible, he places value on things, and it also reflects in that person's environmental and social responsibilities, among others, in society. The next thing here is environmental responsibility. It refers to our obligation to use natural resources carefully, minimize damage, and ensure the sustainable use of these resources such that it will serve the needs of the present generation and will also be available for future generations. This is sustainable use of natural resources we are talking about here. To achieve this, we have to be environmental friendly by ensuring reduced, minimal, and or no harm upon the ecosystem or the environment. During the course of the last paper, questions were also asked about how, these resources, like the oil that is being tapped from the ground, can be replaced. You cannot replace. I think hydrocarbon is one of the non-renewable natural resources that we have. And I think the only way you can replace that, like Prof said, is to use the money realized from that sector to develop other sectors, so that when the oil depletes, you can still have something to fall back on. So it's at that level. So now you will agree with me that the ongoing scramble for fossil fuel, hydrocarbon, a non-renewable natural resource in Nigeria, does not demonstrate environmental responsibility. I call it scramble because the federal government has commissioned some companies to tap these resources. The boys are going in to break the pipes and drag for these resources. In the process of the oil companies tapping the resources on behalf of government, they are stealing it. So they scramble for these resources, and it's non-renewable. So it does not demonstrate environmental responsibility. In Nigeria today, there is environmental irresponsibility such that our crude oil is extracted, some of it stolen in the process of extraction by the oil companies due to non-metering. Funds realized by the government is also corruptly stolen, and the environment is damaged in the process, like we have in Ogoniland and other parts of the Niger Delta, without sustainable plan for remediation, thus making the resources and environment not sustainable to serve the present and future generation of Nigerians. Now, if you look at the pollution we have in parts of Ogoniland, which is where we have the environmental Bible today, largest anywhere in the world, you will agree with me that if there is no sustainable plan to clean up that part of Niger Delta and then extend to other parts, the environment that we inherit, the resources that we inherit is going to be a cost to us, because a lot of fishermen today don't fish anymore because the pollution in the land has damaged their sources of livelihood. On the other hand, the massive environmental pollution of the Niger Delta environment as a result of the activities of youths involved in oil theft and artisanal refining does not also demonstrate environmental responsibility. This is because the massive pollution from these sources is destroying our environment, killing the fishes in the water, affecting agricultural produce, and killing people through food poisoning, air pollution as inhaled, and black soot in the atmosphere. You see it. And if you see how this black soot is doing, a lot of people don't know how the damage it is causing. And most of these things come from people that are scrambling for these resources, refining it, and polluting the environment in the process. There is a comment I want to take, but let me take it from the speech. Here, this, if allowed to continue, can result in a Niger Delta without Niger Delta people. If the pollution we have today continues, because when you eat, the food you eat is like the rice you just ate this afternoon, was planted in an environment. In the process of harvesting, planted in a polluted environment. In the process of harvesting it, you have the soot depositing on it. Even when they are cooking it, there is no how they cover it. So you eat poison every day. And I tell you, this kills even more than HIV and AIDS. So, the water and air in the Niger Delta region is secretly killing more people than HIV and AIDS. It is against this background of massive environmental pollution in Nigeria that the call for environmental responsibility has risen over the years for it to be addressed. Now, the reasons for the call for environmental responsibility include the following. Why we want this environmental responsibility to come forward is what we are looking at here now. Concern for increasing land degradation, including erosion. When we talk about environmental degradation, we are not only talking about the oil. Like in parts of the southeast, you have erosion problem really polluting the environment there. Even when you have waste disposed everywhere on the street, it constitutes environmental pollution. Even plastics, like some of you just finished taking your bottled water this afternoon. Some of you may have thrown the plastic into the environment. These are challenges to the environment, and this constitutes environmental degradation. And it does not show environmental responsibility, which is what geoethics is trying to call our attention to. Now, salinity, compaction, reduced soil, microbial health, and toxicity from pollutants. These are the concerns why we are calling for environmental responsibility. The economic consequences of land degradation and reduced water quality. Now, talking about the economic consequences. Now, I don't know whether you are aware of how much it's going to cost for the commencement of the environmental cleanup in Ogoniland for the first 5 years. You know how much? $1 billion US for first 5 years. And that first 5 years, they have structured it to the extent that every year, $200 million will be released for the cleanup. And as I speak to you, they have released 187 million US dollars available that they want to use and start the process. So you can see the economic consequences of environmental degradation. Now, you also have loss of income because people that depended on that environment can no longer fish, they can no longer farm. Today, if you cast your net into the river, what you catch is oil, no longer fish, because of environmental pollution from hydrocarbon in parts of the Niger Delta. So people have lost their income. A lot of people cannot send their children to school anymore because their sources of income have been damaged by this environmental pollution. So the cost of reparation, that's to repair, very expensive, I've mentioned it. Now, realization of the limited availability of non-renewable global resources, because we realize that in this part of the world, Nigeria depends on hydrocarbon, fossil fuel for this issue. It is not renewable. So we are campaigning for environmental responsibility because when it finishes, now we have started thinking about life after oil. What happens to Nigeria at the end of the oil? Because it will deplete one day. Even when it does not deplete, the value of oil is falling. Some countries of the world today are calling for the manufacture of vehicles that will not use fuel. You can have that. And because there was an end to the Stone Age, does not mean that there were no longer stones. Stones were still there. That is to say, the oil we have today could be in the ground, we still have it, but no value attached to it again. So economic diversification, it's time for us to begin to think about that. Otherwise, we are going to experience what they call the Dutch disease, whereby the discovery of natural resources will cause decline here, and before you know, people begin to lose their resources. Now you also have non-renewable global resources such as arable land is being damaged. Now the Ogoni area and a lot of other parts of the Niger Delta have been damaged. People can no longer farm anymore. And in this other part like Ubiama, Agoda West, Agoda East, Bayelsa and what have you, flood has now taken over the area. So all these challenges we are facing are reasons why we are calling on environmental responsibility, climate change responsibility, and social responsibility to see how we can tackle some of these problems. I have mentioned the scramble here, so you talk about the competition for these resources, how people compete on these resources. And if we don't have environmental responsibility, we are going to have them depleted even when we are not yet prepared to start life through other means. So concerns with the impact of humans on global climate change. The impact of humans. What are the impacts? I've mentioned, like you finish taking your water, you throw the plastic away at home, you don't dispose your waste properly, they block drainages, and you have flooding everywhere. A lot of people now, if you ask them what has caused flooding in parts of the country, they will tell you it's the rain, not just the rain. That is the impact of climate change. And everyone in this almost may have contributed one way or the other to the challenges we are having today. Whatever we have today is an activity that has resulted from the activities of man on the environment. So, the loss of biodiversity within our ecosystem is another issue and reason why we are calling for environmental responsibility. Then fear of contamination, spread of pollution and diseases. Yeah, that is it. Are you aware that a study was carried out in parts of Ogoni land that women that stay 10 meters away from polluted area, environment, have the baby in their womb affected? It's on the internet, you can go with it, you get it there. And it is also, the study also showed that if you live in this environment, and people that live there, they inhale this pollution every day in their life. They crop the plants, they eat pollution. When they go to farm, they harvest their vegetable. You go home to cook. Soot are deposited on it, you eat it. So people are dying and having strange diseases. These things are available on the internet. So environmental responsibility should be seen as a duty by every citizen, you and me, to operate and carry out one's activity in such a way that protects and sustains the environment. The same thing applies to the oil companies operating in the Niger Delta region. They need to commit to environmental responsibility by observing internationally recommended standards and be environmentally responsible in the course of their activities. The core, come back again. The core also goes to the security operatives who should also desist from acts of destroying illegal refineries, in such a way that the petroleum products are emptied and spilled into the environment. I think you know how they destroy these illegal refineries. They go there, they destroy everything, and the whole oil from the refineries are emptied into the environment. There was one study I did with Vice News New York. When they came here, we did a study. The civil defense, they were not ashamed to publicly follow white journalists to the field, and they were using their knife and gun to puncture drums of petroleum products, and they were videoing them, and they thought they were doing something to show the international community that they are working. That is not working. We must evolve a way that when we confiscate those products, we take it to the depot for a better use, not to destroy it into the environment. And most of the people that are doing this among the security operatives, they are not from the Niger Delta. They are not from here. A lot of them are posted here. And a lot of them even paid right to be posted here. I say it to them every time because of what they are going to get from the process. Just this morning as I was driving down here, I saw at Olobasanjo Road, they have confiscated 2 tankers belonging to Mrs. maybe conveying illegal product. And why that tankers were gotten there is because the people refuse to pay bribe. When they pay them bribe, those tankers don't get to where people will get to see it. It's as bad as that. So they shouldn't destroy these products into the environment because it's causing environmental damage to the people of the Niger Delta. So environmental responsibility is a collective responsibility. It's not something that all of us should do. If you are not in a position to regulate, if you see something going wrong, like destroying our environment, you try to talk about it, that what you are doing is not good, don't do it. Let's say you are passing on the road, somebody drinks water and throws the empty can on the ground, and you can say, please don't do that, that is not okay. Please pick it and dispose of it properly. These are ways you can contribute to these processes. So it is a collective responsibility. So geoethics has given us the tools that we need to create the awareness for environmental responsibility, and we must key into the opportunities to be environmentally responsible. You can be responsible as an individual, but you are not responsible environmentally, and you need to key into that process because it affects all of us. Now, social responsibility. What are the social responsibilities that we have as a people in line with the geoethics doctrine that we are here for today? Now, Wikipedia says that it is an ethical framework and suggests that an entity, be it an organization or individual, has an obligation to act for the benefit of the society at large. It is a duty every individual has to perform so as to maintain a balance between the economy and the ecosystem. Social responsibility must be narrowed down and seen as personal responsibility and as a part of citizens' obligations. So, we can say that social responsibility is one of the components of citizenship. For you to be a good citizen, you must be environmentally responsible and socially responsible. Have that consciousness. And relations between man and man in the society. Social responsibility is important and plays a great role in every sphere of our lives. So if we want to live in a prosperous and developing society, we all should be conscious not only about personal but also about social responsibilities, as geoethics advocates and admonishes us to do. Therefore, in the context of geoethics, the social responsibilities of members of the society to the surrounding environment, especially in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria, where pollution has replaced natural environment. Have you been to, who has been to Bile here? You've been to Bile, you travel on the river? You've been to Bile? If you are going to Bile, you see as large and as big as that river is, the trees are already kind. And where this massive environmental pollution as a result of oil theft is going on, we have security operatives stationed on the river. So they are there collecting their cut and allowing it to happen. And most of these people, like I said, are not from here. So at the end of the day, they go back to their area and the Niger Delta is there. Why Nigeria is still united is because oil is still flowing from here. The day the oil dries, or the day there is no value for oil anymore, people will talk about the division of Nigeria. So we must be environmentally responsible and socially responsible to make sure that we don't aid and abet anything that will destroy our environment. The environment is our heritage. So, what we have here is that we attach importance and value to our environment. We have to do so, no matter what it is our heritage. If those who lived before we came had tempered with the environment the way we are doing today, we may not have met what we have on ground today to support our life. Our life is still being supported because we still have a little left. But what we let you understand that your life is not being properly supported is that the lifespan of an average person in the Niger Delta has reduced. I think it's less than 50 years. It's because your environment is not supporting your life properly again, and there are people that are responsible for that. So practicing and carrying out geological exploration and oil mining activities with social responsibility will enable us to overcome these challenges. Now, resources and objects of inorganic nature, geoheritage. What we have is a geoheritage. Preservation will also help us. Then deliberate efforts to care and protect the environment can also help us overcome some of these challenges. Stoppage of oil spills by the oil multinational companies and by those involved in acts of oil theft, artisanal refining and pollution in the Niger Delta can also help us overcome some of these challenges. Next slide, please. So, in conclusion, geoethics presents an opportunity for us to be more conscious of our environment and social responsibilities in the process of conducting our daily activities. Daily, if we can just begin to practice some of these things every day, you will see a change in your environment. Sometimes when you get to Calabar, you ask whether, when do they keep it clean? Because you wake up in the morning driving or going through the road is already clean. That is to say there are people that are responsible to making this happen. But today, to a very large extent, Garden City is metamorphosing into a garbage city. What is responsible? Because even you, as an individual living around the area, you are giving time within which you should bring your waste out. But you wait till when you are not supposed to, you just come and throw it on the way. You are also asked to package your waste before dropping it, but you just go out there and throw it on the street. And the contractors, not being efficient enough, are unable to evacuate this waste. And you see the Garden City metamorphosing into a garbage city. So, it serves as a tool to influence the awareness of the society regarding problems related to geo-resources and geo-environment. Hence, the recommendations of the above environmental and social responsibilities as effective behavior, especially among young people in addressing concrete problems of human life, to find solutions to our environmental challenges, such as the protection of nature and land in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria. I think this is where my slide ends.
One more round of applause.